Welcome to the Abbotsford Farm Podcast, episode 1. Unbelievable. I'm Tim Dickert, here with Ben Lypka. The podcast is powered by Black Press Media and the Abbotsford News. Ben, how psyched are you for this?
Insane. It's insane. And thanks a lot for doing this, Tim. I'm so excited to start this with you. The first thing I wanted to get out of the way, first of all, it's called the Abbotsford Farm Podcast, but this isn't a podcast about farms. I've had a few family members inquire about that. So we're not going to be talking a whole lot about farms right now.
I mean, I do have some farming questions. So like, hit me up on Twitter. It's at the Tim Dickert. I tried to grow some tomatoes. It didn't go well. So maybe another podcast we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think media is always changing. It's transforming. I'm open to talking about farms. I'm a big farm animal guy, but right now, obviously, this podcast is going to be about the Abbotsford Canucks American Hockey League team, and
yes,
I am super excited about it. Things are getting underway later this week, and yeah, I'm looking forward to following the team and following the season with you, Tim.
Now you're excited, I'm sure, because you're a sports reporter. You're based in Abbotsford, so this is a big professional team dropping sort of right in your jurisdiction. But remove yourself from the journalistic side of things, and as a fan, as a sports fan, what are you most excited about? You grew up in the Lower Mainland. I grew up in the Lower Mainland. Everyone's just a Canucks fan. So what are you excited about having this team here in the Valley now?
Well, and to be honest, growing up, I wasn't the hugest Canucks fan. So let's get that right out of the way. No. I wasn't a big Canucks fan. I was an Avalanche guy. Joe Sakic was my guy back in the day.
Yikes.
So I think the biggest thing to me, and I've always kind of been intrigued, always been a huge draft guy. I've always been a huge prospects guy. And mostly because those types of things bring hope. You can look down, even if the team's not playing very well, you can look down at the American League team. Well, I can't wait for this guy to show up, or this guy should get a break. And in the past, we've read about it, and now you can sort of see clips online, but now it's right in our backyard, and Canucks fans can see the growth and the transformation like right in front of your face. So as a fan, if I'm looking at it from a fan perspective, I would say that's definitely the biggest thing. Like, for example, we have Klimovich is actually playing out here, who was the second round pick of the Canucks. He was just named to the roster, which just came out earlier today or earlier this week, depending on when you listen to this. But so that's a guy, he was just picked in the draft, and now he's not going to be hidden away in Russia. He's a guy that you're going to be able to see grow and develop. So that's one guy. And then, there's a bunch of other players that Mike DiPietro is another one that comes to mind, that guys that you're going to be able to see develop and get a better understanding of what their game's like. That's the big thing for me.
Yeah, and I think, I completely agree. I know that when the team, when the Heat were in Abbotsford, I only went to see a couple of those games. And honestly, it was when they were playing the Canucks affiliate was the only time I went. I just had a hard time, like, getting motivated to want to cheer for a team where if those players succeeded, they would go on to play for the Calgary Flames. And the Calgary Flames are just the worst. Ugliest jerseys, the worst team ever. I just hate them.
They really are. And I'm going to age myself here, but Joel Otto kicked it in. Remember?
Yeah, absolutely he did.
That was not a goal.
He did. Absolutely. That's what this podcast is going to be about. Kicking it in. No, and I'm just, I have a family, and I have taken my oldest son to Canucks games in the past, but we can't go all of us to a Canucks game. You can't all four of us go to a game. Now we're talking $500 just to get in the door, getting downtown and parking and the whole thing. So now being able to take my kids to see professional hockey, to be in a place where I don't have to stress about parking or how I'm going to get there. It's really exciting from a logistical sort of standpoint, but also from this, I feel like we're on the ground floor of something, like we get to cheer right from the start. I don't remember when I became a Vancouver Canucks fan, but it's exciting that I'll sort of know when I became an Abbotsford Canucks fan.
Exactly. And I was wondering, like, I know you're in White Rock, I'm in Abbotsford, just so we have that clear. But in White Rock, is this team creating much of a buzz? Like, are people interested out there? And what do you see? Like, the thing I'm kind of wondering about, like, because I know we had the Fraser Valley Bandits, which were a basketball team out here. And they found it difficult to attract fans. Like, a lot of people, I know I read all these reports, it's just an hour away. But when people say it's an hour away, I think you haven't been on the Highway 1. You have not driven Highway 1. You haven't been in the Bermuda Triangle of traffic. What is it? 200 to 264th. It's not an hour. So I think people are going to realize that, unfortunately. But, like, do you believe that people such as yourself or your neighbors, your friends in the Lower Mainland, will you drive to Abbotsford to watch this team?
I think everyone south of the Fraser will be excited to go. I don't know how it's going to pull away from teams like the Giants or some of the other junior teams. But I mean, I know for the my crowd, I'm not like in with like all the hip people in White Rock. I'm at like school pickups and like soccer games. So the people I talk to are other parents and people with kids and families. And yeah, there is an excitement to be able to spend $100 and have your whole family go to see a game. There's excitement there. And I think there will be a lot of people, south of the Fraser, really, Delta, Langley, Cloverdale, all the way out, just because there's this sense of, yes, Vancouver is everyone's team, but there's a high bar to entry almost because of how expensive it is to go to a game. And there's an exclusivity to be able to even see the games. So this feels like it's more like the people's team. You know what I mean? Like we can all get on board and we can all go and we can find tickets and seeing one or two games a year will be exciting, and it won't matter who the other team is.
Yeah.
It'll just, you're there to see the Abbotsford Canucks as opposed to when it was the Heat and you were like, well, are the Manitoba Moose in town? No, they're not. Well, I don't want to go there.
Yeah. And $25. I think that's a big thing. Like single game tickets.
Oh.
$25. So I mean,
are you kidding me?
Yeah.
$25. I get some popcorn. I'm laughing. Absolutely laughing. And the Abbotsford Center, I don't want to get too like, pumping the tires of the team or anything, but it's not like there's a bad seat in there.
No, not at all.
You can see great from anywhere. So I mean, I'm excited, and I can only imagine it's going to be a success. So that's exciting. So for our podcast, what we want to do is we want to be I guess when we talk about the team being the people's team, we want to be sort of the voice of the people, the local voice. There's going to be people from Vancouver who are covering the team, sporadically. There are going to be, Canucks bloggers who are covering the team sporadically, but we want to really look at the team from a Fraser Valley point of view. And we want to bring that sort of local perspective. So our plan, I think, is to less about the X's and O's of what's happening on the ice and the analytics of the players. There's going to be plenty of places you guys can go to look at that. But what we want to do is we want to look at the team and talk about the team and discuss the team and dissect the team from a Fraser Valley perspective. And we think that's going to be positive and it's going to be a lot of fun to have everyone here with us.
Yeah. I mean, and you're absolutely right. There are a lot of other podcasts, a lot of other great reporters. They do a lot more of the analytics. And that's something that for our readers, it's something I want to look into, but it's not something that we're really going to focus a ton of time on. So it's something I am interested in. and I have some knowledge in, but it's not something I want to focus on. But it's all about telling stories, and that's what community news is. It's about telling interesting stories about local people. And with this podcast, that's basically all we're going to be doing. We want to continue that sort of model. And like you said perfectly, it's a model we want to focus on the Fraser Valley. And there are so many unique stories, so many unique people on the team, associated with the team, fans of the team, and those people. And like you said, we want to be the voice for those people. And that is the goal of this podcast.
So today's episode, episode 1, inaugural episode, we are going to give you sort of an AHL primer, a refresher course, if you haven't paid attention to the AHL before. AHL 101, I suppose you could say, with Patrick Williams from AHL.com. And then later on in the episode, we are going to hear from Abbotsford Canucks GM Ryan Johnson, who had a chat with Ben earlier this week. So shall we get to it, Ben? What do you think? Joining us now is Patrick Williams, contributor for NHL.com and AHL.com. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, brand new AHL team. You know, our fans in Abbotsford, you know, their only experience with the AHL was probably the Abbotsford Heat all those years ago. And then, you know, the few super diehards who maybe followed the team in Utica. Just to give people a sort of overview, a refresher, or, you know, what should we expect watching AHL hockey?
That things change on the fly really fast. I mean, you can be a team, you're on a roll, and you're feeling good, and everything's, you know, looking great, and then maybe you have a 3-3 that weekend. You lose a couple players to injury, and your number one goalie and 2 of your top players are recalled to Vancouver. All of a sudden, the team's in disarray, and vice versa. Like, you know, you can get kind of that influx. You know, if the Vancouver gets healthy, all of a sudden you may get 2 or 3 players, key impact players at this level coming down. So it keeps you on your toes. I mean, I've always said, like, you know, I would never want to, like, you know, be a guy in Vegas trying to, you know, predict this league and you know, make sense of it, because you think you got a feel for it, you think you got your finger on it, and then boom, it kind of just everything turns in a second. So, you know, it's really good for fans in that sense. That's, you know, it's not predictable. You know, it's not kind of like other leagues where, you know, you kind of like can almost pencil in the standings, you know, at the start of the year, and by the end of the year, you can be pretty sure it'll be the same. I mean, here, it's all over the place. There's a lot of volatility. So that's, I think, what keeps it interesting.
Yeah, we spoke in the summer, and that was before everything happened, before there was a team name, everything related to that. So just what's your impression of the Canucks right now? And maybe what's sort of the chatter around the league about the team?
Well, you know, I think the activity this summer really kind of made a statement with what Vancouver wants to do with the team in Abbotsford. I mean, this has been kind of one of the simmering on the back burner, but definitely their kind of priorities for Vancouver for a number of years. And, you know, it was difficult to always kind of make, or to ever make all the pieces fit, you know, and it's a huge undertaking for the NHL team. But, you know, when the deal with Utica was up this past season, and you had this building in Abbotsford sitting there that's more than AHL capable, it made too much sense to not do it. And so the fact that Vancouver was so aggressive and really going in there and signing some key top AHL veteran players that right off the bat can make the team, I would say, not just competitive, but, you know, certainly a contender. I think that really bodes well, and it's going to be an attractive place for a lot of players, especially guys from BC, from Western Canada in general. If you want to play a little bit closer to home, it's good in that sense. It's certainly going to be good for recruiting players. And I saw this in Winnipeg when the team was when the affiliate was in St. John's. Every time a player gets sent down, that's a major life upheaval. Especially the guys that are married and have kids. Well, now with having the team, the affiliate in Winnipeg, at least if you're sent down, kind of your off-ice life stays intact and you're not dealing with all those distractions. I think the same thing is going to be true for Vancouver players. Before, you were going to be put on a plane and sent 2 time zones away to New York, and you don't know when, if ever that season you'll be coming back, and especially if you do have family in Vancouver, that's another complication. So now, at least if you're sent down, you're going an hour down the road to Abbotsford. Really, your life off the ice can kind of remain intact. So I think for players, that's going to be a huge calling card, and something that a lot of players will really be eager to sign up for.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of those veteran players, and I was curious. Who are those guys that some of the key players that Abbotsford fans are going to be interested in, and who do you think even would be a good choice as a captain? Because that's a storyline that hasn't really been determined yet.
Yeah, my kind of 2 co-choices for captain. One would be Kyle Burrows. Every place he goes, I mean, the coaching staff and teammates rave about his leadership. And not just, the rah-rah type leadership, but, the way he plays night in, night out, especially in this league, that's tough. Like, you do have a lot of 3-and-3s. The travel's rough. So to get that kind of consistent effort and performance from a player, that's huge. Sheldon Dries would be another one. Kind of first came on my radar in 2018. He had just come out of the college ranks, signed with the Texas Stars, who are a Dallas affiliate, and just came in. He came on actually on an AHL contract, and he played his butt off. He's one of those guys you couldn't help but notice every single shift. A real energy guy, kind of a buzzsaw out there. So he was in Colorado recently, he's coming into Abbotsford. I think he has a good chance to play some games up with Vancouver, but in the meantime, I think he would be an excellent choice as well for captain. So those are kind of my 2 guys I would really key in on captain. And just Vancouver's kind of really, they were aggressive in who they signed. Nick Patan. He was actually a really top prospect in Winnipeg for a little bit, and at this level, he's probably a point per game player. So you're going to have a player like him coming in the lineup, really able to make a difference. Spencer Martin in net, I think, will be a real solid backup for DiPietro. So really, they kind of checked all the boxes that you would want to, have for an off season. On paper, they look really solid right now. Now that's like kind of famous last words in this league, because, all it takes is a couple call-ups or waivers or whatever, and all of a sudden it all goes up in smoke. But as of right now, it looks pretty good.
Talk about the Pacific Division then. How do they fit in there, or what are some of the key rivalries going to be? And I mean, you 2 are journalists. I am a fan. Part of being a fan is hate. I hate the Calgary Flames. So who am I going to hate in the AHL? That's important to me. I need to be able to hate a team.
Well, you'll be seeing Calgary's affiliate, Stockton Heat, a fair amount this season. That's the thing. And then with Abbotsford, actually a lot of times in the Pacific Division, you get kind of back-to-back games in the same city. So that kind of amplifies it up a little bit, that intensity. We saw it last year in the NHL a little bit. They were doing kind of those 2-game series in one city, and kind of got things, the fire stoked a little bit more. In general, Pacific Division is very intense because in some ways it's always kind of been its own division, separate from the rest of the league because of geography and scheduling. It's not the NHL where you play every single team in the league. So you tend to get a very divisional heavy schedule in that Pacific Division. So you get San Diego, which is with Anaheim. You get the Ontario Reign, who are with LA. You have Henderson, which is basically Las Vegas, with the Vegas Golden Knights. The Bakersfield Condors are Edmonton's affiliates, so you'll see a lot of them as well. They have a veteran team, so they're always kind of in the mix. I think by the end of the year, you won't be huge fans of them either. So yeah, you're going to get your Calgary, your Edmonton prospects coming in. A year from now, you'll have Palm Springs coming in with Seattle. So kind of when that Vancouver-Seattle rivalry maybe starts to amplify up a little bit, you'll get more of them as well at this level. So it tends to be, the NHL rivalries tend to trickle down to this level, so the Rangers-Islanders rivalry has trickled down to the AHL, Leafs, Habs, you pick all your big rivalries, and it tends to also be the case down here, as those players kind of come up through the system. They learn early on kind of, all right, this team's our rival, and, usually it eventually percolates up to the NHL. So it's really good in that sense. And just with, like I said, with the way the scheduling is, it's you tend to really get that intensity pretty early just because of all those back-to-back games.
What about as a fan? Maybe I can't get out to a Canucks game because of the ticket prices or whatever the case. So I'm gonna, throw my hat into the Abbotsford Canucks team. Yep. What are some of the, I guess, premier teams, or what are some of the teams I should be excited about that maybe if I'm going to buy tickets to one or two games, what's the team I should look for to be excited they're coming into the building? San
Diego is always fun. They kind of play a little bit of a throwback game. Like they're real tough, real physical, but they also have a lot of skill. They really blend that well. Henderson's the same way with Vegas. Not surprisingly, the Vegas Golden Knights seem to have more money than they know what to do with, and they've poured a ton of money into that affiliation already. I mean, so that they have a really, really good team. Colorado, the Eagles, who are with the Avalanche, every year they seem to be a pretty solid team. So when they come in, they'll be a fun team to watch as well, I think. Really, in general, that's a really good division. Ontario last year had 2 top 5 picks in their lineup, Quentin Byfield and Alex Turcotte. Now, Byfield, he's injured right now, and it looks like he might stick with LA after that. But that Ontario team just has a ton of prospects. First, second round guys up and down the lineup. So you tend to see a lot of that, So you get a mix of those, like kind of those 4A type players, the guys really that are right on that NHL, AHL bubble, the veteran guys, but you also get a ton of the high end prospects. So those are the teams like, if I was in Abbotsford sitting there, kind of circling some dates, those would be kind of the teams I would definitely want to see when they did come in.
And then what are your expectations for the Canucks? Like, do you see them as a playoff team? You mentioned that you said they have a pretty strong roster, but where do you sort of see them slotting in at this point?
Yeah, as long as things hold, relatively, securely in Vancouver, and there's not, a lot of, upheaval back and forth. Like if Abbotsford can kind of keep their roster mostly intact without any, without too much, player movement back and forth, I think this is a top 2 team in the division. And let's say, especially if Vancouver doesn't make the playoffs, then you get those players back for the postseason. So that's when you could really, I think, see them go on a run. You could see a situation where, all right, now we have our ideal lineup come late April, and we're able to really, kind of be firing at all cylinders at that point. I think it's also going to be an advantage playing in that building, with Vancouver fans. I mean, that was the biggest thing with Abbotsford when Calgary was in there. It was just, you're in Vancouver's backyard and you're playing Calgary prospects. It just doesn't work, right? Like now you're actually going to have a Vancouver crowd, with fans who are fans of both the NHL and the AHL Canucks. So I think it's going to be really good in that way, and then it's going to be a lot more of a home ice advantage for a lot of these prospects.
Now, you can't do this to me, Patrick. You can't give me hope that a Canucks team is going to be good and could go on a run. You can't do that. It's not fair.
I mean,
I'm heartbroken.
This league is, like I said, I would never go to Vegas and put money on this league.
Yeah, and I guess lastly, where can people read your work? And congratulations, I know you just got a new job. And definitely mention your Twitter account, which I think is a must follow for any AHL fans. But yeah, maybe to let everyone know where we can find your stuff.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. P. Williams AHL on Twitter. That's kind of the main place to find me. I mean, I'm on the same handle on Facebook and Instagram, but I'm not very good with doing that on a regular basis. But Twitter, yeah, I'm very consistent with that. And you can find my work on the AHL.com several times a week. We're going to dig into everything, really kind of, especially from an AHL standpoint. Like I do work for NHL.com, but a lot of that's really focused on what that means for the NHL teams. Down here with the AHL, this is a chance. And this is why I'm excited about is, really kind of dig in and say, all right, well, this is why this matters for Abbotsford, not just what does it mean for Vancouver. So those are the places to see me and read my work. And yeah, it's a fun lead, I would say, to Abbotsford fans. I mean, you kind of got a taste of it last time with the Heat, but I mean, now that you're having the Canucks in there and kind of are the right affiliation, I think it's going to be a lot different experience. And I think it should be really good situation for Abbotsford fans. And like you said, if you don't want to go into Vancouver, downtown Vancouver, pay NHL ticket prices, deal with parking, deal with, all, traffic, everything that comes with that, Abbotsford, it's going to be a great option, really good quality of hockey, one step below the NHL at a much more affordable price point.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Patrick.
Great. Thank you.
All right. That was Patrick Williams from AHL.com and NHL.com and all those other things he listed there as places you can find him. I think that's one of the things he pointed out there that I hadn't thought of at all in this whole switch from Utica to Abbotsford was that these guys are people off the ice. A lot of them are young, but some of them have families and you're on the Canucks and then you get sent to Utica. I mean, Sven Barchi is a great example. His whole family, he had to pick up. They had to move the whole family down to New York. And so as part of this, if someone's on the Canucks, the Vancouver Canucks, and they get sent down, well, they don't need to move. They're just commute now they're not going to downtown Vancouver. Now they're just heading the other way and they're heading to Abbotsford. The family doesn't need to move. The kids don't need to change schools if that's the stage of life that they're in, and vice versa. If you're playing for the Abbotsford Canucks and you get called up, well, you can be at the Vancouver Canucks practice facility that day.
Yeah, and that's something. It was a good point by Patrick, and that's something that made me really think too. Is that it's a draw for free agents. I mean, if you think if you're a middle six guy or bottom six guy, Vancouver is all of a sudden a lot more attractive because even if you get sent down, you can still use the same staff, you can still use the same facilities, you could even use Abbotsford's facilities if you wanted, but you have the access to almost anything that a Vancouver Canuck would have with the team so close by.
Yeah, it's and that's something I hadn't considered. I also love that the sort of Wild West nature of how he described the AHL, where it's just like, yeah, this is the team, but next week that might not be the team. Next week there might be players who come down from the NHL because the NHL team got healthy, or players who got sent up because the NHL team has had a bunch of injuries. So I mean, like, a team could be a powerhouse in the first half of the AHL season and then just get absolutely decimated and have all their good players sent to the NHL, and then they just get absolutely rolled the rest of the way. I just love that. I love that there's this real sense of like chaos about it also, but
I do like that too. But as a reporter, like one thing that it kind of makes it challenging to tell these stories. Like you don't know, and I think Patrick referenced that in the interview. Like it's hard to make predictions because you don't know. The team on day one is not going to be the same on day 50 or day 100 or whenever. So, and then the other thing is these players, like, you can't really get super tied to them. Like there are some guys that are career AHLers, but maybe you don't want to be too connected to these players, which is going to be tough for me because, you want to develop good relationships. You want to have good sources, but you're going to have to constantly be doing that just because you don't know who's going up, who's going down, who's being traded, who's retiring. Like there's a lot of movement. There's a ton of movement.
And I guess that means I shouldn't be getting a jersey with a name and number on the back, or do I wait until maybe you get somebody who is who played, one season with the team and then made the NHL and then they were good in the NHL. Because then, then that's just always going to be a good jersey.
You could always just do the Dickert 69.
No, I can no.
But
I'm not 17 years old anymore.
A classic name, and I don't know if you've taken a look at the roster for the Abbotsford Canucks, but Jared Lukosavicius. And the only reason why I know how to do that is because my previous job, he's from Squamish. So I worked at the Squamish Chief for a number of years, and he was a minor hockey guy there. I saw him play in the Brennan Park Arena, which is the minor hockey arena in Squamish. So I know this guy, but I kind of want that name on the back of a jersey. It's like the longest name. It's so hard to spell too. I know how to do it now just because of so many years writing about him, but that's a great name.
That is a good name. I'm excited about that. I'm excited to get to know some of these players. But yeah, the chaos of it, and no one is going to be more closely acquainted with the chaos of the AHL than GM Ryan Johnson.
You're absolutely right about that. Yeah. So Ryan actually gave me a lot of time. It was great to talk to him in between everything else he's doing. And it's been an insane summer for him, moving a team across the continent in a pandemic and everything else he had to do. So yeah, it was great to talk to him, and we'll go to that now. Thanks so much for being here, Ryan. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
How was your summer?
It's been a busy time, obviously, with the adjustment and the move from kind of having our affiliate in upstate New York to out in Fraser Valley has been, it's been a lot in a short amount of time, and we've been busy, on business side and hockey fronts and all that, trying to get things kind of up and going and set to go. So it's been a bit of a sprint, but we're almost there.
How are you settling into Abbotsford? I know what's sort of the buzz that you're feeling on the ground from the team?
We know there's an excitement in not just the city of Abbotsford, but the Fraser Valley, even I've said Vancouver, the entire province is excited to have our affiliate there. The closeness of understanding and seeing the process of our young players, our development, what that looks like firsthand, and I've said all along, to be able to see somebody play in Abbotsford on a Friday night and watch them play in Vancouver on a Saturday is something that I think will engage our fans kind of in a whole different level.
Yeah, just wondering, when did the possibility of Abbotsford kind of get on your radar? One thing we heard a lot about was in September 2019, there was a preseason game here, and I'm not sure if you were there, but a bunch of the Canucks brass was there. And was that did that sort of start everything off?
It's been something we've talked about for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, even in a cap era, the ability to move players in and out, have the flexibility to do that, to make adjustments to our roster in Vancouver, to engage our fan base. There's a lot of motive to why we wanted to eventually see it happen. I think it was important to our ownership on a lot of levels, and like I said, the engagement of our fans and understanding our process to have our organizational model right in front of our entire province, and it was something we've talked about. It was just a matter of the timing and obviously the pandemic and things played a part of that. And we had an unbelievable situation in Utica, but it created challenges of travel and different things, and now we feel like it's been a sprint to get here, but I think we're all organizationally happy with the way that it's worked out.
Were you at that game in 2019?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I was.
What was your impression on the building? I'm not sure. I guess were you in the AHL when the Heat were here, maybe? And what's your take on the center as a building?
It's a beautiful building. Great city, great environment, I think great American Hockey League environment. It's a great place to watch a game.
Mm-hmm.
The building almost looks brand new. I mean, it hasn't had a lot of, I saw a game there, when our Utica group was playing there.
Okay.
It's a great environment right down the road. To Vancouver. I think our Rob Maloney and our business staff and the job that they've done in a short amount of time of getting this up and going, and even our exhibition game, their training camp, they've done a phenomenal job. It's been a lot on a lot of people in a short amount of time, but we're excited to make that building our home and get people in there very soon to watch our group play. So, like I said, there's been so much work by a lot of people in our organization, and now I'm just looking forward to puck drop and watching the game be played, which is at the end of the day the most important.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what are the benefits of being in Abbotsford? I know you've talked about this before on other shows. Basically, the staff is now more available. Obviously, coaches can come check out games. But what are the benefits for your job?
Well, to have organizational support, I think we feel like a unit at this point. When you're halfway across the country, it's hard to pull on your organizational resources in all matters. I think in regards to our ability to keep players accountable, of being able to move players up that are deserving of it. If players aren't doing the job up top, we have the ability to bring in guys that we think make us a better team at the end of the day, giving us a chance to win a Stanley Cup. There's just, there's a lot to be said about having your team in close proximity, and it's, I think, even for our upper management in our group to be able to have eyes on our players at all time. I think it means a lot to our group in Abbotsford, from coaches to players to everybody, to have that support from not just myself, which it typically is, but our entire group. It's just, there's many boxes that get checked by having, the proximity and the support right down the road.
Yeah, just from your perspective, I know a lot of people are familiar with your career in the NHL. How did you develop as a management person in Utica?
Well, I think one of the progressions of my position was, working with our young guys, our young players, helping in their development and their preparation for the adjustment to pro hockey. And when, we eventually felt it was very important that my position carry on through that adjustment. And it wasn't just, here you go, good luck, and I've done my best to prepare you for it. I felt, when I was named GM of the team and the young players that I built a relationship and spent the time with prepping for that once they made the step to pro, that I was still there and along with them, maybe in a different capacity, but still to support and have the understanding of what got them there, what makes them up as a player, but even more importantly as a person, and to support them into the adjustment into pro hockey was a big part. And that's something I'm very thankful for, is that I get to develop these relationships with these guys early, understand them as players and people, and then as they turn pro, which is a huge adjustment, not just from the hockey side, but from the living standpoint of being out on your own. You get a lot of time on your hands, and helping them make that adjustment, I think in a lot of ways benefits them. It benefits me and our organization. So that's been, I think, an important part of that process.
Once again, we're speaking with Ryan Johnson of the Abbotsford Canucks. How involved have the Sedins been, and how often are they going to be in Abbotsford?
It's been great. They've been very involved, and I think they really are enjoying the process of understanding the operation of the AHL and what that entails, and I want them around as much as possible. They're a great resource. I know they've been individually been down at different times to watch practice, be around. They'll be a great support group for our staff and our players, and so I couldn't be more happy to have them involved and around our group as much as possible.
This roster, what do you feel are some of the strengths and weaknesses of this team?
Well, as we all know, you can try to come up with an American League roster in the summer, and it never will fall that way. There's always, we sign players to be able to make for tough decisions in Vancouver. I think our group did that. We've seen guys that maybe we anticipated would be with us in Abbotsford that have made our team in Vancouver, which again is a positive. I think we've got some young players developing. I think we've got some experience. We've got some very talented players that I think are going to, keep knocking on the door to be the next guys in line to be heading to Vancouver should they earn their way or should we have injuries. So I think we've got a good mix. We're still seeing how it will come together. We've got a few days before we kick off things in Bakersfield, but I like how things are coming together. And as you know, that can change daily in the American League because you always got to be on your toes. So you're going to have additions or subtractions very quickly.
Yeah. And Trent Cole, you guys worked together for a few years. What kind of style does he bring for the fans? And why do you think you guys work well together?
Well, we have a very, united way of how we want to see things done, how we operate things, how we think an American model should look. He's very organized. He's a very deliberate coach, and he's got a plan of every day that he goes about things, and players, enjoy playing for him, because they know he's got their back and he's got the best interest. I mean, at the end of the day, we're trying to produce NHL players. And we've, I think the biggest, one of the biggest, jobs I have is giving players the best resources and the people around them to give them an opportunity to get there. And Trent Cole is the leader and the head coach and the guy that I want running that ship. He's done a phenomenal job. And I'm excited for people, now to get to experience him firsthand as opposed to across the country in New York. They will see, how good of a job he does at moving players along. And like I said, our job at the end of the day is to produce NHL players who give us a chance to build a Stanley Cup winning team. And he's the guy that I want, at the helm of that ship. That's for sure.
That was GM of the Abbotsford Canucks, Ryan Johnson. Ben, great interview. Good job.
I've done a few of those. I've done one or two in my day.
So, I think there's a lot in there, that you kind of expect to hear, right? The logistics of moving a team from New York to Abbotsford obviously is not small. And of course, a lot of the employees wouldn't have made the move, right? They would have stayed, kept living their lives in New York and not moved to Abbotsford. So the process of having to hire all these new people and bring sort of this, what is essentially, because I imagined it, at first I imagined it, it's like, well, you just moved the Utica team to Abbotsford, no big deal. But it's not that at all, really. I think it's very much a brand new thing. And I think that is exciting. And you could hear the excitement that in his voice about how he's, closer to the team, he'll work while the relationship, I thought that was interesting what he said, that the relationship between him and Jim Benning won't change too much. But he did talk about how it'll have it'll be nice to have the management and the resources of the Vancouver team available and sort of on site really for the Abbotsford team.
Yeah, and that was the thing. When I asked that question, like my thinking personally is if you're working remotely or far away from your boss, and then all of a sudden you're working in his backyard, like, wouldn't that be, that would be a little unnerving for me. I don't know. Like, I mean, you're confident, you have to be confident in your job, but it's like, that would make me feel a little uneasy. And now they know what you're up to. They know what you're doing at all times. They can come drive and show up to your place of work whenever you want, which is what I'm sure Jim Benning and Francesco Aquilini can do whenever they want. I did see Francesco was in the Abbotsford Center during Vancouver Canucks training camp. I saw him a few times. So these guys can show up and just unannounced. They can do whatever they want. It's their team. They own it. But he seems comfortable, and I'm sure there's no reason for him to feel uncomfortable. But
I mean, obviously, we all remember our first job, and and the days where the head manager wasn't there were just way better.
Oh yeah.
The manager's not there, you just have a good time. My first job was at McDonald's in Langley, and if the head manager wasn't there, then my next boss was 17. so yeah, you liked when the manager wasn't there. So
and maybe you have I'm sure Ryan has a great relationship with all the Canucks management, but isn't it it's more loose? I don't know. To me, it just feel a little bit more pressure. And then the other thing, which he didn't really talk about, but the other thing that was kind of interesting is that I wanted to talk about was these Canucks prospects now. And we know Canucks fans can be very critical. They watch everything. They're very knowledgeable, but if Klimovich has a bad game, all of a sudden, there will be fans calling, oh, he's a bust. We got to trade him, send him down to the ECHL. So he didn't really talk about that a whole lot, but I'm sure that's something that they might be a little bit concerned about bringing the team here, just because perception could be, a prospect has a bad game or a bad week and he's ruined, and you don't really want that amongst your fan base.
No, but I think that there is I guess we'll see. My thought is that Canucks fans in general are, we're a smarter bunch. We're we're not just your run of the mill Calgary Flames fans. We're intelligent. We know what we're doing. We know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And so
they are, but they are, my experience, there's not a lot of patience. It's been 50 years. It's been 50 years. We haven't won anything. So
yeah, fair enough.
The Canucks fans have seen a lot, and it's kind of they want something to happen fast with this team, with the AHL Canucks, the Vancouver Canucks, whichever.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, okay, fair enough. But I think that the minors are its own thing, right? You let them breathe. You know what was the big thing that stood out to me from from your interview with Ryan though was how he said how involved the Sedins were.
Yeah, and that was something I wasn't really sure what to expect out of that answer. There hasn't really been a whole lot of talk about what the Sedins have done. I know recently it looked like the Sedins, someone had posted a picture of the Sedins were at the Abbotsford Canucks practice sometime earlier this week. So they are there. I did not see them. I was at Vancouver Canucks training camp for, I think, 2 or 3 days. I didn't see them. I've been at Abbotsford Canucks practice a few times. I have not seen them. So... But yeah, it's interesting, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of role they play moving forward. I know it's always been the Sedins, I've always been a fan of theirs, but it's kind of when are they going to separate? Is Henrik and Daniel going to have the same opinion about a player, or are they going to have different opinions about players? That's what I'm wondering. That's what I'm wondering about. How do they?
I think they're going to. In private, maybe they disagree, but no, in public, they are one. They are one voice.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see. And I know Ryan played with the Sedins when he was in the NHL, so he knows these guys. He knows that they know what it takes to be an NHL player. They know what it takes to be professional. So I'm sure they're gonna find things to do. And I'll be looking for them, so it'll be interesting to see, just like I said, how often they are in Abbotsford. It could be a less pressure situation out here as opposed to Vancouver. So maybe they want to be out here more, and maybe they want to start from the ground up. But I'll be looking for them. I won't know which one's which, obviously.
You can't tell them? Come on. You can't tell them?
Yeah, Mr. Sedin, that'll be my go-to. What's their official title? Is it GM? I don't even know.
No, they don't have an official title, right? Isn't it just advisors, hockey operations advisors or something like that?
I think that's right. Yeah. But yeah, it'll just be hello, Mr. Sedin, if I see one of them.
Perfect. Yeah. Get in there. Awesome. Okay. So our goal is to bring you an Abbotsford Farm Podcast once a week during the hockey season. But that's not the only place you can come for Abbotsford Canucks coverage.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to be hitting it hard. And like Tim mentioned earlier in the podcast, there are really no other Fraser Valley based reporters or broadcasters covering the team, at least as far as I can tell. So yeah, we do cover all sorts of sports as well, not just hockey. So abbeynews.com is your stop for anything to do with Abbotsford or the Fraser Valley. And we're going to have a lot of Abbotsford Canucks coverage. So this podcast is going to come out weekly. We'll have stories. Whenever things happen, there'll be stories. There'll be a lot of interviews, a lot of features on players. So we are planning just a ton of coverage about this team. And I do believe, especially now with this podcast, with all the writing that we do, we have a photographer on staff who will be at a lot of the games too. abbeynews.com, and then our Twitter accounts and all of our social media, like those are must follows for anyone who want to follow this team and gain more information about the team. And
did you hear that? Yeah. Must follow. Must.
You have to. You must. Otherwise, just shut this show off now.
Shut it down.
Actually, don't. We need the listeners. But there was one story that's going to be very interesting, and it's going to affect a lot of the fans. And I wanted to mention it now before it gets out online.
Wait, this is a scoop?
Yeah, this is kind of a scoop.
Unbelievable. Hot off the presses.
Yeah, presses, sure. Scully's Hot Dogs, or sorry, actually, I think it's called Lully's Hot Dogs, sorry. Scully is the name of the owner. Anyone in Abbotsford, if you don't know this guy, then I question if you actually live here. He runs the hot dog stand outside of Canadian Tire on South Fraser Way, and he's done it for a number of years. And you might remember him. A big story on him went pretty big on, he donated a kidney to a customer. So that's the kind of guy that he is. He's always very busy. He's kind of like the soup Nazi type guy of Abbotsford. Like, for example, he doesn't allow you to put ketchup on his hot dog. He has a whole bunch of other like interesting quirks about him. He likes to make fun of his customers a lot. So it's an experience going to this place. Anyways, it was we kind of figured out on our own through his Instagram account, basically, is he's going to be offering his hot dogs at Abbotsford Center. So we're going to have a big story on that. That's going to generate a lot of interest. Usually his thing is he'll serve hot dogs till whenever they're sold. Like, he sells out basically every day. So the fact that you can get these hot dogs now at an Abbotsford Canucks game, and Tim, you got to try one. They're huge. They're
massive. Right, I'll do it.
You'll feel a little dizzy after. It's a lot of meat. But I definitely recommend them. They're amazing. And so we'll have a story on that coming up soon. So watch our social media and watch our website, and just continue checking out some of the work that we do, because all sorts of other Abbotsford and Fraser Valley related stories can be found on our website. So definitely check that out. And people from Vancouver, they're interesting stories. They're just click on them as well. You may as well. But okay, yes, that'll all be up at least by the weekend or early next week. So all the Abbotsford Canucks coverage we'll have game reports up shortly after the game's done. So watch for that as well.
Ben, wonderful. Okay, so check out the Abbotsford Farm Podcast on social media. You'll find it at Abbey Farm Pod on Twitter. Is it the same on Instagram?
We are, yeah.
Excellent. Same one on Instagram. And then you can find Ben and I on Twitter as well. I'm at the Tim Dickert, and Ben, you are
at Ben Lypka.
Oh, come on. Look at these must follow accounts.
They are must. We have to capital letter must. But and then this podcast will be available on anywhere you can find podcasts, obviously.
So make sure you subscribe, share it with your friends, tell your grandma, she will love it. You need to show her how to download it onto her phone, but other than that, get that Abbotsford content into her ears. And we will be back next week. So thank you for joining us for our first episode, and thank you for joining us on this inaugural season.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Talk to you later.